everybody, welcome to another edition of the Giant Zone, episode 14 with our good friend. Tommy is going to join us tonight. Tommy's been here before. Of course, you got your co-host, Steve the Banker, and you got yours truly, Fly Guy Carl. And as always, at the beginning of every show, we ask, please keep subscribing on YouTube if you're watching our show on YouTube. And if you're downloading our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and any of those download sites, please keep up the 5-star ratings. All that support and all of those things help us to continue to bring us a good show. So bring you a good show. I apologize. So please keep it up. And again, from the bottom of all our hearts, we really thank you for your support. So Tommy, since the last time he's been on the show, has joined the New York Giants Rush, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And Tommy was nice enough to show me. He's got a nice little setup going now. He's got a tripod. He's got a microphone. So Tommy's really, Steve, our boy is growing up right in front of our eyes. And I may have to excuse myself and go wipe the tears from my eyes here. I'm so proud.
we're gonna have to reach out to your secretary, your assistant, to schedule time with you, Tommy.
I'm working on getting an agent.
We're going to see if we can fit ourselves into your schedule soon. So, Tommy, we don't need to go into the introduction here. You've introduced yourself to everybody previously, so I know you want to get into this. So why don't you hit us with your first question, Tommy?
All right. Before I go into it, though, just thank you guys for having me on. Really appreciate it. You guys are one of the first pods that really believed in me. You know, me and Carl, good friends. We talk all the time. Really means a lot to me. And just to see you guys' channel grow and prosper, and some of the guests that you've been getting on here, really a testament to your hard work. And, really proud to be associated with you guys in the pod. And, I appreciate it deeply.
Thank you. We appreciate you too, buddy.
Thank you, Tommy.
So first I'll say, feeling good, right? When this airs, we'll be less than a week away from the draft. Really not too much clarity out there still on who we're going to pick, where we're going to pick. I was watching Sean yesterday, and he was talking about, we might do this, we might do that, but we have no idea. We haven't had any concrete talks. So this thing's not really going to heat up probably till like next Tuesday night, Wednesday possibly. But feeling excited, feeling happy. We didn't get the cap space yet, right? We're still waiting on getting that cap space. So that's a big focus. Maybe we'll see some moves here coming up. But we'll get right into it. I think that we should, before we get into any draft talk, let's address, the elephant in the room. With Kadarius Toney, I wanted to chat about that. To me, he's a critical player in this offense. One of the few dynamic players that we can claim on this offense. Someone that's, when it's on the field, is explosive from any area of the field. Can use him out of the backfield, in the slot, on the outside. Really, really dynamic, joystick type mold, however you want to call it. But I have some serious concerns here, fellas, that, go back to last year. He had the cleat issue to start camp, missed a couple of days of camp due to the cleat issue. No big deal. Isolated incident, right? Let's move on. We get to the season, can't get on the field the first couple games because he didn't memorize the playbook, didn't know the playbook properly. All right, no big deal, right? Isolated incident, right? Finally gets on the field. Dallas Cowboys game, absolutely dominating. 11-yard catch away from 200 yards receiving, and punches another Cowboys player in the head and gets kicked out of the game. That was kind of his final swan song last season. Certain social media issues. He had the comments on the Ruggs issue, fighting with the media. The media, some clowns. We had that issue as well. And that brings us to here, to where, doesn't show up for, voluntary camp. But hey, where are you guys at with that? Isolated, but when you combine everything, where are we at?
Steve, you mind if I run with this first?
No, 100%. Go for
it. So here's my thing. We all know what transpired with him last year. The injuries, the illness, didn't know the playbook, whatever. I've been saying this, and I'm going to stick to my guns on this. The optics on this look really bad. Okay, I think they really do. But by the same token, didn't have to clear this with the team. This is voluntary, and we need to all remember that. And I actually had to take a step back and remind myself of that. According to the collective bargaining agreement within the league, He does not have to report regardless. He doesn't have to check in with the team regardless. They said they've had good conversation with him. Whether I believe it or not, it doesn't matter. He doesn't have to report. It's voluntary. Now, whether we think he's a turd, whether we think he's a good guy, he's going to be great. He's got some Odell in him. Okay. Odell never reported, if you all remember that. However, when Odell showed up on game day, he balled, and we all loved him.
Absolutely.
You know what's going to happen? If Kadarius Toney shows up and he balls, we're not going to be talking about this. So we could say what we want. We can feel how we want. It's voluntary. Bottom line, he doesn't have to be there. He doesn't have to tell the team why or why not. Let's see what he does on Sundays. If he shows up on Sunday and he plays, I will be the first one, like everybody else, to say he's great. He's all, and this won't even come up. And I'll even own it and say, okay, maybe I was too hard on him. Just my thoughts. Steve?
Yeah, I actually don't have a lot to add. I wanted us to take Slater with that pick. We all know what happened. Within minutes, I was excited because I watched him, right? We talked about how I'm down here in Florida. I saw him play at U of F. And I already knew what type of player he was. We were on a podcast last year, right? We talked about that. And on the podcast, a lot of guys were like, oh, you know, this guy, I don't know. I don't even know much about him. And he's not even one of the top 2 or 3 wide receivers. I was like, you guys, I'm telling you, man. And joystick, Tommy, was the exact word I used last year. This kid is electric.
Absolutely.
And then everybody saw the Dallas game. They're like, oh, yeah, he's amazing. I'm like, I know. I'm telling you, the kid is ridiculous. But from the neck up, I don't know, man. He never played a full season at Florida healthy. He was originally recruited at quarterback. So yeah, who knows what's going on in his head about what his own skill set is and what he thinks he's capable of. I think clearly his priority is not playing football for the New York Giants. That's my biggest concern because we've all played team sports. And if you play team sports, you know what the dynamic is and what you have to do to earn respect of your teammates, whether you're the best player or the 52nd player on the roster. So I have concerns, but I think we're probably focused on this because it's the off season. I think if we all talk in a week, like nobody's going to even, not that we won't remember, but I truly think nobody will even care. In 2 weeks from now, we'll be talking about who we drafted, undrafted free agents. That'll be all the energy and the excitement. So I get it. It pisses me off. I'm not happy about it. I'd like to see all the guys there getting all the work and learning the playbook. But I agree with everything both of you said, actually. I'm not happy, but I also think we shouldn't overreact too much.
And Steve, you know what? You said something that it brought something back to me. We could have had Slater. We could have drafted Slater, and we chose Toney.
Yeah, we wouldn't need a right tackle if we did.
You're exactly right. We could have drafted Micah Parsons, and we drafted Toney.
Absolutely.
So Gettleman's job was on the line. He was drafting to save his job, and he went with flash. Okay. The last GM that we had that did that was Jerry Reese.
Jerry Reese.
Okay. He drafted
on multiple occasions.
He drafted Odell when he could have drafted Aaron Donald. He could have drafted Zach Martin. Okay. And he drafted Odell. So history repeats itself. All right. But again, it's Kadarius Toney's going to get the benefit of the doubt. He's going to be there this year. He has a year similar to last year. I don't see him back in the I don't think these guys will stand for it.
I think Tommy, I think the one thing that I didn't mention that makes me feel okay and able to say what I said is because it's Shane and Dable and Kafka running the offense under Dable. Like, I feel like we've got the right staff. They haven't done a lot to earn our respect. They haven't coached a single game, right? I mean, I'll be the first to admit, but it just, we talked about that on recent podcasts. It just feels, Carl said this, it just feels different. So I'm optimistic. Maybe it's naivety, right? That Daboll can build this relationship with this generation of player that even Joe Judge, he relates to the young guys. He's basically the same age as some of the kickers and whatever. I don't know. Like, this just feels different. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. And just to finish that off, I was a big fan of Toney, just like yourself, Steve. One of my followers actually showed him one of my tweets from last January before the draft, where I was like, Giants got to get this guy. We got to get him. He's explosive. But to treat one incident, kind of in a bubble by itself is naive, in my opinion. I think you have to treat it. You have to look at the big picture. And I love the kid. And listen, you know what? Becton didn't show up for Jets camp, right? He's not there now for theirs. So it's going to happen. You're going to have players that don't show up. Is it the end of the world? No. But something to keep an eye on. And we need dynamic playmakers, man. We need kids out there. We need Jones to progress, and we need him out there. I just hope they get him straight.
I'll just add one thing, Carl, and then I'd like you were of the generation where you watched these players, and you even watched slightly before me, but I remember all the great. Come on.
The dinosaur era.
We try to have some fun and be a little honest. I'm not telling anybody your age.
I saw them when they were wearing leather helmets.
That's right.
Listen, Carl looks good, man.
The Hall of Fame
looks good, brother.
But I remember Art Monk and all those great receivers for the Redskins in the 80s, Steve Largent. I remember, and then moving from the 80s into the 90s, Michael Irvin was really, for me, the first one. He got away from Jerry Rice and all these other great players I loved, Sterling Sharp, and all of a sudden you had these, it's about me, but he also got in a lot of trouble off the field on those Cowboy dynasties. And then it seemed to get worse and worse. The Terrell Owens of the world, off the field, it's me. But when they got on that field, man, oh my God. And look, I can't stand Odell anymore. And I know everyone's come full circle, like we're getting off topic a little bit. And everyone's like, oh, I love Odell. I'll never forget. He broke my heart, and I won't forget that. Absolutely. I wish him well.
Oh, yeah.
But I always put this emoji up there, and people can't stand it. This meme, of him pissing like a dog. Yeah. And I do that.
The Philly game.
Listen, you move on. He won a Super Bowl. God bless him. But, that crossed the line for me. The thing about Kadarius Toney is he hasn't done stuff like that. So once he crosses that white line and he steps on the field, as long as he's giving us everything, I'm okay. Unfortunately, he wasn't healthy last year, and that's got to change. So I'm gonna be more upset about stuff like that than I am about did he show up for the offseason workout or not.
I agree. Good point, Steve.
But Absolutely. To do stuff like that, number one, you got to be on the field and with the team, and number two,
score.
You got to score a touchdown. There you go, Tommy. Very good. So Tommy, you beat me to it. You read my mind there. So we'll see. Let's see what happens if he scores a couple touchdowns. And here's to your point about Odell. Odell's matured. I will say that. This is only year 2 for Toney. I'm willing to be open-minded and see what this year brings. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens on Sundays.
It's going to be interesting, guys.
Yeah, it sure is. What else you got, Tommy?
I've been doing a lot of thinking. We got a new coaching staff, top to bottom. I've been doing a lot of thinking of kind of, when going into the draft, scheme fits, right? We always talk about scheme and the right players matching up with the scheme. And, Wink has a different type of scheme than most defensive coordinators. It's blitz heavy, cover zero. I think the Ravens last year were the 5th highest blitz rate team in the NFL. Creating free pressures. He's huge on that. Not a traditional edge rusher utilization, likes to manipulate pressure a lot. I have a few players that I think would fit. I want to kick it to you guys first, though, for the defensive side of the ball. Thursday night comes, we're drafting, we're staring, 2 similar position defensive players in the face. What do you think? One, is it extremely important to draft a player that fits into that specific defense? And 2, who are you looking at?
Go ahead, Steve. You can start with this one.
I'll name 2 guys. The first one, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to say Sauce. Enough said. I'll let you guys talk more about him. It's probably the one non-edge player that everybody for the Giants within our Giants fandom has been talking about. So I think there's enough for other people to discuss. I'm going to bring up the player that I brought up. Gosh, Carl, maybe 4 or 5 episodes ago. I'm trying to remember. And that's Quay Walker.
I didn't know where you were going. Okay.
Inside linebacker.
That's a good one.
Inside linebacker out of Georgia, 6'4", 240. He looks like an edge rusher in terms of his body.
Nice one.
He can blitz. He can cover. He's super athletic. He's twitchy. He swallows up running backs. He blankets tight ends. we have Blake and we love Blake. Who knows what Blake's going to look like? Other than that, we have a very, very shallow group of linebackers. We really don't have much after that, especially not much proven. We have a couple young guys and we have some guys that, we wish weren't on the team and scare us when we think about our depth. For his defense to work, he needs a chess piece or two. He needs very athletic linebackers. He needs corners that can cover and press. We know about that. He loves to bring pressure. Tommy, like you said, one of the other episodes we did, I looked at all of the sack totals from not just when he was defensive coordinator, but also when he was linebackers coach for the Ravens prior to that. There have been a couple of guys, Terrell Suggs. Oh my God, I forget his name. One guy had 17 sacks. The short, stout guy. God, I knew his name and now I'm flaking out. But there have been a couple of guys who've had huge sack totals, but it's actually not very common in his defense. We saw Matt Judon leave and have a career year in New England because the potential was there, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But that's just not how the Baltimore Ravens defense works. He brings it from anybody on that defense can blitz. And so he spreads it around, and he likes linebackers that can bring coverage. He needs linebackers that can bring coverage because he needs that quarterback and center to know that when it looks like they might blitz or they're dropping back and they need to know that there's always the threat there from that second level of the defense. So I don't think we really have that. I think we got a couple of young guys. Oh my gosh. Now I'm totally flaking out. The two kids we got in the draft last year.
Aaron Robinson.
No.
Tommy, what are you doing to me, Tommy?
You've been talking too much.
We got the linebacker from Penn State. And we got the linebacker. Oh my God, I didn't do my homework. From 2 years ago.
Oh.
They played a lot of special teams.
Cam Brown,
and who was the
good.
other one? What's that?
No, I don't remember the other one. What school?
Oh my God, I feel terrible. I usually know all this stuff. I'm like usually an encyclopedia.
Anyway,
the point is we have a couple of young linebackers that, had a decent rookie year. We got some.
Tay Crowder.
No, Tay Crowder.
No, you're not Tay Crowder.
Is not who I was thinking of the guy. He was a linebacker, but they brought him out on the edge and they would rush him from time to time. Anyway.
We'll get back to it.
I'll get back. I'll look it up. That's a negative on Steven tonight. But the point is, we got a couple of young kids that can rush the passer or whatever, but they never really broke the starting lineup. There's some chess pieces there, some depth maybe that Wink will get some productivity out of, but nobody that you look at and go, wow, that's a rock solid starter, tremendous athlete, great potential. So for me, it's Quay Walker.
So in preparation for this question, I've wanted to take a look back first at Wink's scheme. So I fully understood Wink's scheme. And I've got some notes here. So Wink's scheme, he loves to blitz. They blitzed 30% of the plays last year while he was in Baltimore. He likes to create chaos with exotic pressure looks. And he also every now and then he plays that race car package with 4 outside linebackers. Okay. He's got an aggressive philosophy and he likes a lot of man coverage as well. For his 3 years in Baltimore from 2018 to 2020, and I threw out last year because of all the injuries they had and the problems that they had. But in those 3 years, they ranked second, third, and first in points per game. Okay. In yards allowed per game, first, third, and sixth. So he likes to disguise intentions, and he also likes to crowd the line of scrimmage. So taking all that into consideration, here's where I see the fits. I see 3 fits. DeMarvin Leal, edge. I'm going to give you 3 edge and 3 linebackers because that's given all this information. That's kind of where I went. You got DeMarvin Leal, edge out of Texas A&M. You've got Perion Winfrey, edge out of Oklahoma. And then also John Ridgway, edge out of Arkansas. Those are the 3 edge that I could see fitting into his scheme. Okay. And those are day 2, and then day 3 picks. Linebackers, of course, Thibodeau. And I put Thibodeau as a linebacker, not an edge. All right. Drake Jackson at a USC, possibly.
It's a good one.
And then, Steve, this is where I thought you were going. Boye Mafe out of Minnesota. Because you brought him up on numerous shows, Steve, and I could see him fitting as a linebacker in Wink's scheme.
I did, but believe it or not, and let me just say, Carter Coughlin and Cam Robin.
There you go. There you go.
Carter Coughlin. So you'll remember kind of a tweener, how we used him. A lot of people forget he's still there. He still has actually a lot of potential, I think.
Absolutely.
Carl, thank you for bringing up Boye Mafe, but I may have been wrong about that. I have like a man crush on that kid. I think he's going to be, he's like a ball of clay. He's got so much potential. He's aggressive. Yeah. He doesn't have great hand usage, but he's a beast. He's bull rush, super athletic. But at his size, I think he's like 6'4", 261, give or take. He's there. A lot of people project him as a 4-3 edge, and we're not running that scheme, right? So that's Carl. That's my only concern. I think he's going to be a good football player. I just don't know if Wink is going to change that front. And I know, Tommy. I know very few teams stick with their base front anyway, and Wink likes to move around. And Carl, he could probably find a way to use him that would be phenomenal. But
I would think so. But I understand your concern too. Your concern is valid, Steve.
I was actually going to bring him up, and that's why I didn't bring him up tonight.
I was shocked because I know you love him. You've been on him all off season. Tommy, what do you think there as far as defense? Tommy, what do you think?
Yeah, so when I went and I did some research, I tried to compile, not only scheme fit, but actual really good football player. We need good football players that have been good in college consistently. I'm going to kind of go from the first round, swing on down. I got a couple players. First and foremost, I did have Sauce Gardner on there. Obviously, we need a strong man corner, strong man, sticky guy, sticks to his man, good ball skills, like the dream cornerback. I'm actually starting to think he might not even get to 5. That's how I've been feeling the last week or so, right? I'm thinking he might not even get there. I'm thinking the Jets might say, hey, let's get our guy. So I had him one. I also have a cornerback, Trent McDuffie, at a Washington State. Really good, solid cornerback. Again, good ball skills, great man corner, tough, well-versed, experienced. I love what he did there. I also swung around then to linebacker. The linebacker that I'm in love with out of Utah, Devin Lloyd. Fast, strong, great leader. You can move him around. You could put him inside. You could put him outside. You could blitz off the
blitz,
edge.
right?
And he could blitz. Coverage skills not there, but as the case with a lot of these linebackers that we're seeing, but really phenomenal. And then his counterpart, Nicolby Dean, kind of that once, LB1, LB2. I love Nicolby Dean. Winner, great leader. A little bit undersized, but makes up for it with his speed, passion, pursuit. The guy's like a bullet getting shot out of a gun. Smart. Yeah, exactly. Really smart. Knows winning football, right, with Georgia. So love him. Then I go to somebody that I've been keeping an eye on edge out of Penn State, Arnold Buchetti. AK-17, they like to call him. I love this kid, man. When I first started doing draft research, a couple months ago, I had him kind of middle second round, maybe dropping into early third. I think now he could slide into the first round. I love his motor, energy, burst off the edge, long, lean. He's someone that I actually would love if we can snag in the second round.
Let me hit the pause button on that. I know that that may be interrupting your mojo, so I apologize. But the negative I've heard about him, and it doesn't mean he's not going to be a great player, is undersized. And it doesn't mean he's not tall and his frame doesn't have potential, but he's gonna get demolished in his rookie year strength wise by offensive tackles. So he's not a guy that you can plug in. What I'm seeing and what I'm reading is he's not a guy that you can plug in day one, beast, starter. He's going to be a kid that's got to work his weight up and his NFL strength up. Is that a concern you have? You're seeing the potential, or you disagree with that take?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, Steve. I think as is the case with several of these prospects coming out, they kind of get the tweener label put on them, right? Because either they're not tall enough, not strong enough, not lean enough, whatever it may be. I saw on tape a kid that was explosive, smart, was able to read the defense, great on counters versus the run, versus the run game, very intelligent. But yeah, he's a little bit undersized for the position, but somebody that you kind of tuck away for a year. Get him some rotational, third and long snaps out there. I think he's going to be an excellent edge, and I think he could sneak into the top of the first at the very least. Pick 36. Maybe
So
I'm just wishing for
I
it.
think the second round, I think the Giants are going to miss out on some phenomenal young edge players like him, like the kid from Michigan who blew out his Achilles.
Ajabo.
I think those guys are going to fall into the second, and teams are going to steal them. Like you just said, tuck them away for a year, play them a little bit, whatever. And then in their second year, it's like, oh my God, I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, they're going to store them. Is what they're going to do. They're going to hide them on the roster. Practice.
Let me flip it back to you now, Steve. I got a question for you off of that. What team, can afford to do that, right? What team can tuck a player away? Is it Team A, that's a winning team, a Super Bowl contending team that has good rotational pieces? Or is it Team B that's in rebuilding mode, not expected to win, not a lot of pressure to win? Which team do you guys think, in your opinion, would be more apt to take a player that may be a little bit more of I don't want to say project player, but, tuck away for a year player?
I think it's a two-part answer. I think that the winning teams that have a strong foundation have a far easier time doing that. And part B of that answer is the GM and the head coach that have a longer contract ahead of them and have more jobs. Because that's how the real world works, right?
Good answer, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good answer. That's why I was surprised Gettleman traded back last year, but not off topic, guys.
And, Steve, I agree with you. The good teams with the good foundation, they can more afford to draft those players and nurse them along and not rush them in. Whereas teams in a rebuild thinking, all right, we got a diamond in the rough here, but the pressure is going to be greater on them to get them, back in the lineup and on the field. So it's a catch-22.
Look, I'll give you some additional food for thought.
Yeah.
The best drafting teams are not just the teams that know where the talented player is. The best drafting teams are the teams that know what they're good at developing. For example, the Giants were great at developing tight ends for about 15 years. The Steelers have always been great at developing linebackers and edge, but more recently, in the last 15 years, they've developed wide receivers. Like, wow, where did they find this guy and that guy? We got Plaxico Burress from them, and I think he was a second round pick out of Michigan State, but they've found some other guys in middle rounds.
Great point.
Knowing what you're good at, don't fight it. The Giants were great at developing defensive tackles. Oh my God.
You read my mind.
Right now, Tommy, I bet you and Carl, you can list literally 5 great DTs that left us in free agency, blah, 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 years after years. So to me, the great teams are also the ones, so food for thought, that know that they can listen. Sometimes kids that are selected in rounds, not even 2, but 3 and 4 and 5, are just as physically gifted as guys in the first and second. Sure. They just haven't put it on tape yet. They haven't developed yet. Yeah. They haven't played the right talent. They haven't been coached right. They just haven't gotten there. Maybe their body just doesn't develop it. So I think the teams that are going to pick guys like that are like a San Francisco, the teams that know that they're. I think the mistake people make is assuming if you already have strong players starting, you don't remember what we did during our most recent Super Bowl runs. We had Strahan and OC, and what did we do? We picked Tuck, and I'm like, huh? Why would you pick that guy? And look what he ended up doing. And then we got Kiwanuka, and I'm like, why they get Kiwanuka, this kid? I mean, he's a great player out of Boston College, but we don't need another one of those. Well,
seemed like overkill.
Look how that worked out.
And then we got JP.
Absolutely.
You want to have bench strength, and you also want to bring them on. Strahan didn't blow it up his first 2 years in the NFL. Nope. He got hurt. You want to bring guys, and then the best teams are the ones like the Pittsburghs and Green Bays that just know when to get rid of guys within a year or two of them peaking, right? The exact thing the Giants have never done, at least not recently, in the last 10, 15 years. So I think when you think about the teams that are going to pick those types of players, sometimes it's the ones that have great starters already.
Yeah. You know who comes to mind as a team that's actually good at doing this kind of thing? I hate to say it as a Giant fan. Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas just they're very good at taking these guys that everybody thinks, oh, he's going to drop, he's hurt. They draft him, and they're patient with him, and then all of a sudden they got a stud. And then the rest of the league is kicking themselves saying, why didn't we do this?
Well, they've gotten very good at like tight ends, for example. They've gotten good at that.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of factors that play. It's not as clear cut as which teams are good and which not. There's a lot of factors that play into it. So go ahead now, Tommy. So we discussed defense. So I'm sure you want to talk scheme on offense.
Yeah, and fellas, I felt like offense was a little harder, right? Because we got the ball, was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. He's now the head coach, right? We don't know how much of this offense is going to be his imprint. We got Kafka from Kansas City. We don't know how much of it's going to be his imprint. I'm sure it's going to be a blend of the two. When really looking at it, Buffalo, and we will watch them in the playoffs, very short to deep offense. Kind of pick at you, and then take that shot when it's available. That was something I seen when looking at film with them. Kansas City was really check down to touchdown offense, I like to call it. A lot of screens, check downs, shovel passes, small stuff. Get the defense, get that front seven sucked in. That was kind of the breakdown I had when looking at the two and trying to blend them together, because we don't really know what the offense is going to look like. It's not like we got the ball as offensive coordinator straight up and he's ours and this is what he's going to run. So I'm curious, part one of the question, what do you guys think? How is that offense going to look? Imprint between the two? How are they going to operate? And, part 1B of that question, what players do you like to fit in that system?
So like I did on defense, I took a step back and I looked at both Daboll's and Kafka's offenses. And they were actually much more similar than I thought. So Daboll liked to run a spread offense in Buffalo, more of a spread, okay? High volume passing. Kafka and/or Kansas City, they also did the high volume passing offense, but with the West Coast offense blended into it as well. The Daboll offense, and I'm leaning more on that because he's the head coach, okay? Relies more heavily on the wide receiver and less on the tight end and the running back. There's more empty backfield sets in Daboll's offense. 71% of their plays last year had one running back, one tight end, and three wide receivers. All right. But yet there was also a percentage where they also had four wide receivers and one running back, and they ran that third most in the NFL. So what am I saying? We're going to throw the ball. So now everybody thinks, okay, you know what? Wide receiver. Okay. Do they fake us all out and take a wide receiver second round? Well, we don't know. We just discussed Toney. We got Galladay. So far, Galladay is saying all the right things. So I'm leaning towards the fact that they don't go wide receiver first and/or second round. And Steve, we've discussed this in other shows, third, maybe fourth round. Okay. Yeah. Tight end, wide receiver. But if there's one player that I see fit that I think can sneak into this offense and do a really good job, is Isaiah Likely, the tight end out of Coastal Carolina.
Yes.
You know what? I've been talking about Record. I've been talking about Ferguson, but I love this kid. He's, I was going to talk about him later. 6'4", 240. He runs a 4.6 40. He's fast and agile. All right. 59 catches, 912 receptions, 912 yards, 15.5 yards reception last year. All right. He makes catches in contact. He's a good pass blocker. Size is a bit of a concern for a tight end. He looks more like a bulky wide receiver. But boy, can I see him fitting in this offense. Steve?
So you went straight to my favorite position. Look, I've talked about it. You guys have you watched podcasts, listened to our podcasts in the past. You've heard me talk about what a big Bavaro fan I was when I was a kid, and then as a young adult with Shockey, and even the Coughlin championships, as I call them. we always had that tight end, that quarterback's best friend that Eli could rely upon. And we found them in a variety of ways, right? So everybody knows that we need tight ends, but I think a lot of people just keep forgetting we have no tight ends. We don't have a starting tight end on our roster. We have a bunch of second and third string tight ends at best.
Right.
And we don't have any starting tight ends. We don't have tight ends that can block. Everybody knows who's been listening. That's my passion, man. I love a tight end because I like a traditional wide tight end. I like someone who can line up in line. And so shout out to Bobby over at Talking Giants. Hopefully Bobby will be coming on our podcast one of these days.
Skinner. Yes, sir.
We'll see. Bobby and Justin are great.
Come on, Bobby.
He beat me to the punch. This past week, I heard him talking about the tight ends, and it was one of his top 5 tight ends he talked about. This is a kid that I've had a bit of a man crush on because he can do it all. And because I think it's realistic that we get him. Charlie Kolar, tight end out of Iowa. Underappreciated. He's rarely in anyone's top 3 or 4. I would say up until about a month ago, no one was even talking about him really. He wasn't one of the ones with all the glitz and glam, like the big test combine results. 6'6", 256. Bam! That's size, baby. And guess what?
Absolutely.
He can block. He's a hell of a blocker. He's one of the best blocking tight ends in college football. He runs great routes, but here's the thing. He doesn't separate great. So he wasn't super fast. He doesn't have tremendous separation. So he's not one of these guys everyone's talking about like, oh, he's going to be like an Evan Ingram, outrun people. I'm fine with that. Because guess what? He had the production in a big conference, 764 yards, 63 receptions, 6 touchdowns. And he wasn't a one-year wonder. That was an improvement over his prior year, but his prior year, he had tremendous production as well. Super soft hands, catches everything thrown at him, 34.5-inch arms. So he's not just a willing blocker. He's an excellent blocker. He's got great size, great frame, soft hands. That's not a common thing. Usually you get one or the other. Usually you get a guy that can catch and is a tremendous athlete, but they're not the best blockers. Oh, they'll learn to block, but they don't have tremendous size. Or you get a guy that has great size, great blocker, runs nice routes, doesn't great separate, but he's not a receiver. He's not very good at catch. This guy has it all for me. I know everybody talks about the kid out of Virginia that transferred from Oklahoma State, but
he Woods.
Yeah, 6'7". He's a beast.
Monster.
He may go a little bit higher. And I'm thinking maybe in the 3rd where we have 2 picks, but it may have to wait till the 4th. Could even happen in the 5th. I think this is a kid that we can get. He might fall to the 4th round. I'm hoping. I would be ecstatic, man. And I think if we don't get 2 tight ends, this is going to be a phenomenal year to sign some undrafted free agents for sure at the tight end spot. So I focused on tight ends, and that's who I was hoping for.
Interesting. What do you see? Well, that was a diamond in the rough, Steve. That was a good one.
That was a good one.
What do you see on offense, Tommy?
Yes, I think you hit it right on the head, Carl, when you talked about the Bills offense. A lot of 11 personnel, 3 receiver, 1 tight end, 1 running back. The common thread was Kansas City ran a lot of 11 personnel too. So I think we would definitely see the lion's share of that. So I'm going to go 2 different ways here. I'm going to go running back, believe it or not. I might get killed for this, but this kid, James Cook out of Georgia.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And you want to talk about a running back that can go in the slot, motion, wheel route, really phenomenal.
He's Dalvin's brother, right?
Good pedigree there.
Yeah.
Yes. Has the bloodlines. And listen, I love Saquon. I fought for Saquon on Twitter. You guys have seen me have some battles out there. Even if he does have a great year, we might not throw the big bag at him. So I like James Cook. You might have to grab him in the 3rd round. You might have to use a pretty high pick, but in that offense, he would work perfect, especially in wheel routes out of the backfield. Also, you need a tight end, right? You just alluded to, we lost 3-4 tight ends this offseason. We got Seals Jones, which was a nice pickup, but rotational piece. I like Trey McBride, and I know he's the number 1 consensus. Listen, I know he's consensus number 1. I know you're probably going to have to grab him if we take him at pick 36, but could block, could run routes. Looking up some of his draft profiles, and a couple of them is the pro comp was Kelsey from Kansas City. So I said, you know what, coaches, when they go to new teams, they want that comfortability. They want those players, that style of player they're familiar with. I like Trey McBride. I also, I like Woods. I was going to mention Woods. You got him from me, but I'm going to go Cooks and McBride for offense.
Interesting.
Let me throw you guys a fun fact that I mentioned on a previous podcast. No cheating, no looking back. But if you all were watching and listening, I did mention it. How many touchdowns? So Carl, no answer. Tommy, this is for you. How many touchdowns did Dawson Knox have in college?
Ooh, that is a good one.
And for those listening, Dawson Knox is the starting tight end of Buffalo. Turned into a great player so far. They got him in the draft just a couple years ago.
That's a tough one. I'm going to say 17 touchdowns.
He was picked in round 3, 96th overall. Played at Mississippi. No touchdowns.
Wow.
Yep.
Look at that.
And where I'm going with this
That's a good one.
Where I'm going with this is Daboll and Shane know how to scout. They know how to find players, but more importantly, they know how to find players that are going to work in what Daboll and now hopefully Kafka, right?
Exactly.
System of what they want to implement. So I feel like they're looking at players that they know will work with what they want to run, and they're not letting the draft tell them who they should pick. They're letting the draft come to them based upon historically how the two of them work together as offensive coordinator and assistant GM and even in their days in Miami. So Tommy, for example, the reason I mentioned Charlie Kolar is he can also he's versatile. He can be an H-back, inline, split out. That's what they did with Charles Clay in Miami when Daboll was offensive coordinator.
Yep.
I mentioned this in a previous podcast. There's been some great articles about how I think Shane was head of pro scouting at the time. So it's not even like he was the assistant GM, but he was out there in charge of finding play. And Daboll said to him, this kid, I want him. He can play H-back. He can play traditional tight end. He's got soft hands. And the draft came to them, and I think they got him in the 6th round. The kid ended up developing into a Pro Bowler, as we all know. So I think it's going to be Daboll and Shane and the rest of the staff that they've put together, the assistant GM who we love from Philly, saying these are the types of players we want. And I think there might be spots where they pick players that were like, that's a little high, or who's that guy? So Tommy, I say all that because you just mentioned Cook, and I was like, at first I repelled when you mentioned him and picking him that high at 36. I was like, no way, man. But you know what? Or no, Trey McBride, you said 36. I think you said
McBride,
yeah. And Cook, you said Cook in the 3rd round.
Correct.
And at first I was like, no. But you know what? These guys know how to find the right player that's going to fit their system. And they're going to coach him up.
Amen. Absolutely.
And they've been groomed to do this in their time together in Buffalo. And look at the results that yielded.
So Tom, if Shane and Daboll say, you know what, we want Cook in the 3rd, and I'm going to be like, what do you want? No, that's not one of our top needs yet. We got to trust them.
And to your point too, Steve, same thing with free agents, right? We picked up a bunch of rotational pieces, just picked up Jordan Akins from I think he played for the Texans, tight end. Yep. Who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe we knock one out of the park with, we have him, we got Seals Jones, we got a bunch of offensive line pieces. I 100% agree with you. And showing we trust. I'm trusting anything the guy does. He has my full support right now. I agree 100%.
I think we need to talk Kevin Boss out of retirement.
Kevin Boss, man. I love Boss, man.
Out of Oregon, right?
Loved him.
He was awesome.
Yeah. What else do you have for us, Tommy? Sorry.
Okay, so next one's an interesting one. I think you guys will like this one. Something that I've been giving a lot of thought to trade or not to trade in the 1st round of the NFL draft for the New York Giants. We've heard, Joe Shane say basically, I want more at bats. We also heard him say yesterday, I'm fine with staying at 5 and 7. Obviously, we're never going to know the real truth there. A lot of smoke screens coming out. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I have some very definitive opinions about this. I don't care what anyone says. I feel that our number one priority as a team, number one, is deciding, is Daniel Jones worth another contract? Is he our quarterback of the future? I know most fans have probably, at least half of all fans have made up their mind one way or the other. And the other half of fans are like, well, let's see how this year goes. And in order to do that, we need to fill that gaping hole on the right side, right tackle.
Absolutely.
I also talked in our last podcast and the podcast before that as well about how 28 of 64, because there's 32 teams, so each team has 2 tackles, so 64 tackles, 28 were first round picks, and how in all likelihood there's going to be at least 4 first round offensive tackles this year that probably supplant starters. So let's call that 32. So at least half of all starting offensive tackles this season are going to be former first round picks. There's a reason for that. It's because once you go after the first round, as much as any position except maybe quarterback, it's that much harder to find a starter in the beginning of their career. Doesn't mean you can't develop one, but good luck finding a tackle in the second, third, fourth. You find a guard, you find a center.
It's a crapshoot.
But we all saw what happened with Matt Pert. Good luck. I mean, it's tough. It's not easy. So my number one priority is getting that right tackle. So to answer your question, Tommy, I do not want us to trade that 5th pick unless 2 of our top 3 tackles, or whatever 2 tackles Shane and Dable decide. Let's say it's for some crazy reason, Ekwonu and Neal are both there, or Ekwonu and Cross, which I still wouldn't want us to trade out. Just take Ekwonu, or whichever one they think is the best. But if 2 of them are there, Carolina's in all likelihood going to take a quarterback or a tackle. They need both. Those are their 2 biggest needs. At least at 7, you're going to still get a tackle. So that's the only way I want us trading that 5th pick, is if there's still 2 tackles on the board. If we don't trade pick 5, I'm open to pick 7, as long as we got our tackle at pick 5. And the only way I'd want us to trade pick 7 is if we get an overwhelming package of picks. I don't want them to settle, because we need pieces. You don't pass up on talent today. We need to build a foundation. And if Daniel Jones is not going to be the quarterback of the future, fine. Then let's build the foundation for whoever the next quarterback is going to be.
Well said.
So I agree with Steve. I don't want to trade 5, and I want to get that tackle, and I want to secure our right tackle for the next 10 years. Okay. Whoever they feel he is, in Shane we trust. Whether it's Neal, Ekwonu, Cross, if it's only one that's available, fine. I'll say this, and earlier in the offseason, and I hate to sound like a flip-flopper, but the more we research this and the more I got into this, I try to always stay open-minded. I've softened my position on trading number 7. Again, the caveat being we get the right tackle at 5. In taking a step back and looking at it, 4-13 last year. Okay, a lot of holes. Question at quarterback. Can they get a first round next year if they in a package for number 7? I don't know if they can. Just get picks. We need picks. Get the picks. At this point, we can use as many as we can get our hands on. So if they get the tackle and then they feel that, the guy that they want later in the draft is going to be there in round 2, get picks. I don't care. I'm okay with it. Or trade down if you think you can get, like Steve has always said, these guys, they have about 90 players that they feel that they're looking to draft. These are the 90 players that they're focused on. Whatever order, whatever. If they feel that they could package 7 and still get them somewhere else, then do it. I'm completely on board with that. So we need the picks, get the tackle, and then I'm open to trading 7. Tommy?
I wanted to disagree. I wanted to kind of throw a curveball in there because you guys both agreed. But I have to agree, listen, there's a couple different angles to look at this thing from. I do look at it from the financial angle as well. So if you do say, hey, we're loading up to support Jones, we're loading up to protect Jones, you're just taking on more draft picks, right? You know, if you're trading down, you're trading 7, you're going to get a couple more draft picks. One, are we able to pay? You know, if we're right now we have 7 draft picks, are we able to pay 9 draft picks, 10 draft picks if we do decide to stay in this year? Second part of that is, do we trade for picks next year? If you do, you're basically telling Daniel Jones, good luck. Work with what you got there, champ. And that's why I disagree with it. Now, as you both said, if Pittsburgh, Seattle comes up and says, hey, we want Willis, we want Pickett, here you go. Here's a ginormous package for you guys. It will be hard to turn that down. But I think it comes down to the fact of, are we all in with Jones? Or does Shane want his own guy? Does the ball want his own guy? I think if we did do a trade, that would tell us a lot about that thinking. If they say, hey, you know, we want a first rounder next year, we could probably surmise that, hey, you know, if we don't pick up the 5th option, we might not want to give him that $33 million tag next year. But I agree. I want 5 and 7. I want the right tackle at 5. You know, give me BPA at 7. You know, whether that's, you know, edge, whether that's a linebacker, whatever. I don't care. I trust these guys to make the right pick. But I'm staying put for multiple reasons that I just mentioned. I'm not moving.
Look, we could get, everyone's assuming it's going to be, you know, like a Seattle or obviously Pittsburgh wants to trade up. They don't, in all likelihood, they don't have the clout unless they give us like really crazy picks this year and next year. New Orleans, that would be interesting. Everybody's been talking about New Orleans after they picked up that extra pick from Philadelphia.
Yep.
What about Minnesota? You know, let's say Minnesota wants to trade up from 12, and we all as fans, I could see this happening because isn't this what it is to be a Giant fan? We're getting sauce at 7. We're getting sauce. We're getting sauce. The Giants announced a trade with Minnesota. They're dropping to 12, but maybe we get Johnson from Florida State as an edge.
Right.
And then we get a first round pick next year. I'd be like, woo! Right. You know, so I'm not a fan of passing on a great potential player if they're there. I stand by what I said about Slater. We should have picked him. We wouldn't be in this predicament needing a right tackle.
And Parsons too.
Yeah. And one of my sayings, people have heard me say this before, is you don't get Hall of Fame players by trading out of high first round positions, assuming you know what you're doing and your talent evaluation. There's only so many of those types of players that come along. Here's the other thing I wanted to say about everyone's like saying the same thing. Yeah, but Steve, you're wrong. We need as many first round picks as we can get next year because we might need a quarterback. I think Daniel Jones sucks, blah, 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 blah. We need a quarterback. Guess what, everybody? By my count, and maybe that's what I'll do, Carl, one of these days, I'll list them. I did it a while ago on a podcast. 15 teams, by my count, are potentially going to need a quarterback next year. Tommy, you're the draft expert tonight. How many great quarterbacks? And again, we all know, everybody listening, you never know. After another full college season of football, it shifts around. Guys that we thought were great. I think like prior to last year, Matt Corral was an amazing quarterback. Now he's not, he might not even go in the first round. Guys that we assume are going to be great may not be. And then all of a sudden there's kids that have an amazing year in college, you know, and they're like, oh my God. And then they're the first pick out of LSU to Cincinnati. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
So I think right now there's 2 great quarterbacks next year. Am I wrong? Yes or no?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. So assuming that there's 2, if there's as many as 15 teams, everybody, guess what? They're all thinking the same thing.
Yep.
Well, we better get more picks because we want to get one of those quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
There's no guarantee. First of all, there's already teams that have multiple picks next year. Philly is chomping at the bit, thinking,
absolutely,
man, we're going to move on from that. You know, anyway, so just because we get extra picks next year doesn't guarantee that we're going to be able to get one of these kids next year. So
that's a good point.
I don't know. And then you're punting and looking back and going, man, we punted on that pick. We could have gotten this guy who's turned into a potential Pro Bowler, which these days isn't a big deal to be a Pro Bowler, right? I don't know. I'd rather keep him unless we're really overwhelmed.
And that's why I don't agree with the train of thought that if they make a trade at 7 and they get a number 1 for next year, I don't agree with the train of thought that automatically means that they're looking at Daniel Jones as a 1 year rental or bridge quarterback until next year. I don't. And I want to bring this up because I saw this on Twitter today. I'm not going to name names, but I got into a little debate on Twitter today because somebody made a statement that I couldn't agree with. Okay.
I have to look it up now, Carl.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
So-
I'm just kidding.
So
Get it.
the statement was that in order for Daniel Jones to come back next year, he's got to be a Pro Bowl player. He's got to make the Pro Bowl. list. And I completely disagree with that. And I just wanted your train of thought because that doesn't automatically look. Evan Ingram made the Pro Bowl 2 years ago. Thank you. So
Should have traded him then.
Yes.
That's why
I was the number one guy asking for that on Twitter.
too.
Nobody asked for that.
That's
We
why
all knew that was
that
cool
title
gold.
as Pro Bowler is just so misleading. Evan Ingram made the Pro Bowl because a couple of guys were hurt, if I remember correctly. We're playing in the Super Bowl. So I don't agree with it. And I think I understand, and there was a healthy debate about it. And at the end of the debate, I just kind of said, guys, it's all speculative anyway. We'll see what happens when the game starts. But what are your thoughts about that? Do you guys feel that in order for Daniel Jones to come back next year after 2022, he's got to make the Pro Bowl in 2022?
I'll take this one, Steve. You guys both know I'm a big Jones fan. I agree with Mara. We absolutely did the kid wrong. We've done everything opposite of developing a young quarterback. We've missed on picks that we should have hit on. We ignored the offensive line last year in the draft completely ignored the offensive line last year when we already had barely any depth. My thing is this. He's in a very tough position because if you decide not to pick up the fifth-year option, the only option then, if he has a big Pro Bowl year or whatever kind of year that would want him to say, hey, let's bring him back, you're paying him $33 million minimum to come back in that 1 year.
You talking about
so I think he's in.
Tommy, you talking about franchising, franchise tag?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't pick up the fifth-year option, only other option after that next year, if he balls out, is to pick up the franchise tag, which could be anywhere from it was 33 million was the base, and I think it goes up to 40 million if they make a Pro Bowl somewhere along those lines. And I think he's just in a tough spot. I really do. He's been hurt. He's had two head coaches, right? Two offensive coordinators. Three. I'm sorry, three. That's right. 3 head coaches, different offensive coordinators, different GMs, injured skill position players. Remember the Panthers game last year? We're missing our top 3 wideouts, our tight end, our running back. The kid goes out there, he's making one-handed catches and brings the game home for us. So I love the kid. I think he's in a tough spot. I think he's going to really have to ball out. I don't care about the Pro Bowl. Play me 17 games, stay healthy, play good in the fourth quarter. When the game's on the line with 2 minutes left, put the ball in the end zone, get us some victories. That means more to me than any stats or any Pro Bowl out there.
Steve?
I agree with everything you said, Tommy. I stand by what I've said in the past, which is I have a love-hate relationship with him. I see so much potential in him. I think back to his rookie year under Pat Shermer and how magical he was at times. He was on pace. He set the rookie record for touchdowns. I stand by what I've said in the past, which is no one can convince me that he doesn't have the potential to be at least better than Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill. And I know that's some people joke, well, that's a low bar. Really? They're actually 2 of the higher paid quarterbacks in the NFL, if you look, going into this offseason.
Playoff quarterbacks.
Playoff. The problem is I think as management and ownership, Eli wasn't in phenomenal his first 2 years. I mean, he took time. Do you look at him if he has a good year and say, this is a kid that can eventually win us a Super Bowl if we put the right team around him? I don't know, because he makes too many mistakes. He doesn't go through his progressions. His eyes, the safeties pick up his eyes and see what he's doing. He hasn't progressed. But Tommy, to your point, is that his fault? I don't know. He had that problem at Duke. He's had what is it, 4 offensive coordinators in 5 years going back to college or something like that. He's
Crazy.
They've jerked him around so much. He's got so much potential with the RPO, and he throws the most accurate deep ball in the NFL. Unfortunately, he hardly threw it last year. We don't know why, but he's got such a beautiful touch. He's got plenty of strength and juice in that arm that, is he Aaron Rodgers? Is he, no, but
who is Aaron Rodgers? Aside
how
from
many,
Aaron Rodgers?
how many Super Bowls has Aaron Rodgers won? He's won one, right? I mean, so I think that's the question is, Tommy, if he has a phenomenal year, I don't think he needs to win to go to the Pro Bowl.
Right.
Is he ascending? Has he cleaned up some of those mistakes? Has our offense taken the next step? Are we putting the pieces around him? Has the offensive line gelled by the middle of the year? And if it's gelled by middle of the year, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What is he able to do within that system? And is he becoming a more advanced quarterback? Is he going from his first read and being patient and going to his second and third options? And then are they able to look at him and say, if you give this kid another year, this is somebody that's going to not just make the playoffs, but at least make it potentially to the championship game.
We can win with him. That's what, that's the train of thought.
I think
that's where you want the coaching staff to get.
Because I think that's what the Tennessees and the Minnesotas of the world think when they look at him, when they look at their quarterbacks. They're like, do we commit this much money? If we don't, what are our options? That's what Arizona's dealing with Kyler Murray right now. I heard one of the sportscasters say this week, they rolled out the red carpet when he was a rookie in his second year, and they made a huge mistake rolling out the red carpet. They shouldn't have.
Absolutely.
They gave him all the leverage, and he thinks his doesn't stink.
Right.
And now they're in an awkward position where they don't want him by all accounts. He's a prick. Like, they don't want him, but he's this amazing talent. And he has improved every single year he's been in the league. His stats have improved every single year. And he wants a new contract. So he's got them over a barrel, and that's not the Giants situation, but I'm just saying, what happens when a team gets to a point where, be careful what you wish for. Daniel Jones, let's say Daniel Jones has a phenomenal year and he takes another step and he cleans up those things. I still don't know if they're going to look at him and say, well, he's the kid.
To your point too, Steve, a lot harder to win when the QB's off of his rookie deal, right? A lot easier to win when the quarterback's getting $7-8 million a year, as opposed to $40 million a year, like we're looking at with Kyler Murray. So that's going to be an interesting point of view too. Does Joe Shane say, hey, you know what? Let's draft us a rookie. We'll pay him the minimum, whatever we have to pay him. We'll fill the holes around the roster, and we'll hope he develops. Is he going to want to invest $35 million into that quarterback with all the holes we have?
Ernie Accorsi left the Giants with Eli.
Mm-hmm.
Ozzie Newsome left the Ravens and said, Lamar, I'm going to give you this gift. The GM in Pittsburgh's retiring. Everyone's assuming he wants to leave that next GM with a gift. Shane's in a tough position. DJ's not his boy.
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't know, guys. That's why we got to fix that offensive line. And then, yeah, it's tough.
You know what, though? I think, what else I think is really going to help and why I feel so confident that he's going to take a step forward this year. And people may think I'm crazy, but there was 2 additions to this roster that I really think are going to help Daniel Jones immensely. Tyrod Taylor, number 1. Okay. And I know people are gonna think I'm nuts here. Davis Webb.
Yeah. Davis Webb.
And plus Mike Kafka. You could just see they're being true to their word. They're giving him every opportunity to be successful and take that step forward. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to close it out with this, guys. Quick question, yes or no answer. Kadarius Toney for Deebo Samuel. Yes or no?
No.
Steve?
You can't. We don't have the salary cap.
Look, I understand.
No.
I understand that it's going to cost a lot, but player for player.
Oof, that's tough. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say keep Toney. Roll the dice. He's on the cheap right now, right? We don't know what he has. I love Debo. Obviously, phenomenal utility, multi-tool guy. Has been injured there, and he's looking for what 25, 30 million a year. So we bring him on board. Jones has a good year. We're dropping 70, 80 million into the quarterback receiver combo next year. I love the player, Carl. I love the player. I really do. Showed out in the playoffs. To me, when a player does well in the playoffs, that really steals my heart. I'm not gonna lie, like playoff football and success there. I just don't see it as a fit. I don't see it as a rebuilding move.
Steve?
Yeah, listen, you've heard me talk about team construction. That's like one of my pet peeves, pet projects. And I think, that just screams Jerry Reese to me. That's something like a Jerry Reese would do. I don't want us to. Yeah, I want us to it's been a decade, guys. Aren't we all just tired? We're just tired. We just want to turn it around.
Do it right.
Finally fix this ship.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Guys, that was a lot of fun tonight.
100%.
Yeah.
I loved it. Listen, I could go another hour with you guys. You guys are amazing, man. I love you guys. I really do love you guys. You're phenomenal. I'll be back next Friday. Obviously, we'll have a lot more to talk about next Friday, right, when we roll around. And I really appreciate you guys having me on.
We're going to be pumped
super
next
pumped.
Friday, baby. Pumped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of Red Bulls Friday afternoon, guys. Guys, thank you so much. Tommy, love having you guys on. Love having you on. Steve, love doing this with you, as I've told you numerous times.
Same here, brother.
Everybody out there, again, we thank you for your support. We thank you for all the kind words, and you're the reason why we do this. So keep tuning in, please, and hopefully we'll have a nice announcement for next week's schedule as well. We're looking at doing some fun things next week, and just looking to confirm it. So we'll get that out there. Everybody have a great night, great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Be good.